This is Wildcat Country.
Larson tipped it. Love has it. Lewis slams it, and Arizona wins it.
The inside scoop on the Arizona Wildcats.
It's Gunnar Maldonado. He's got blockers. Touchdown, Arizona.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to bear down.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country presented by Harrah's Auction Casino. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale, and Arizona is 12-0. They are undefeated in basketball. The football team is 9-3, heading into a bowl game next week. What a world, Shane Dale. What a world. You talk about holiday presents, Christmas presents, Hanukkah presents. I mean, can't really ask for much more from our teams, can you?
Well, and I actually go into a couple games. Well, I went to the basketball game in Phoenix, which we'll talk about. You and I are going to the Holiday Bowl. So for those who say I don't get out to any games, first of all, they typically don't win when I go. So there's that. But and they lost the only game I've been to so far this year. But we'll going out to that. We're going to make a family trip to San Diego, and my wife is generous enough to let me go to the Holiday Bowl while we're out there. So looking forward to it. But yeah, we've got some great guests lined up, and I just want to say thank you to everyone, especially around the holiday season, who's been kind enough, who's going to be join us this week, who's going to join us next week. Appreciate the time, especially around the busy holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great show. We have let's preview it. We have AJ Bramlett going to join us. He is the great national champion from the late 90s teams, 97 team starter. So AJ Bramlett going to join us. We didn't have him on last year, so it's been a couple years. So looking forward to catching up with him. And Billy Embody from SMU, covers SMU, is going to break down the Mustangs and tell us how worried we should be in the Holiday Bowl at
Bear Down versus Pony Up coming up. Yeah, he is the host of, among other things, he's the host of the On the Pony Express podcast and has a really good following and very in the know. So definitely worth listening.
So before we get to buy or sell, you were at the game on Saturday. I was not. Give me your thoughts on everything you saw from Matchup Mortgage or whatever it's called.
Mortgage Matchup Stadium, yes.
Thank you, yes.
Arena.
Nailed
it.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, before I get into the game, and I texted you during the game, the funniest thing that I appreciate and you don't was the very vocal Chicago Bears fan sitting next to me who was watching the end of the Bears-Packers game
Disgusting.
at the time. I know you're disgusted too. Those who don't know, Eric's a diehard Packers fan. But he's, the end of the game took place at halftime of the U of A San Diego State game, and he's going nuts in his seats when they recovered the onside kick and tied the game and then won it. When they won it, I'm glad you weren't there for this because he's just yelling, the effing Chicago Bears. I hate the effing Green Bay Packers. He just was going off, which I wasn't
glad
crazy.
I wasn't sitting next to you.
I wasn't crazy about the cussing because there were a couple of kids my son's age behind me, but it was just. But the good thing is that I let him know about our podcast. He said he'd check it out this week, so at least there's that.
Great.
But
welcome to the show.
Yeah,
Go Pack, go.
He's a double bear downer. Anyway, it was a good atmosphere. Lower section was full. Parts of the upper section had fans. I don't think they opened tickets in the upper section behind the baskets because I didn't see any in either of those. Really good atmosphere, similar to the Alabama game a couple of years ago. I didn't go to the UCLA game last year, but I'm guessing it was similar to that. Yeah. My buddy James, who's an OU fan, but he cheered for U of A. My nephew Zach, we all went to the game. James was at the Oklahoma ASU basketball game a couple weeks earlier at the Suns Arena. Mm-hmm. And he said, the atmosphere between that game and this one was night and day, which of course comes as no surprise to any U of A fan. I asked him, was it anywhere close to this packed or this loud? He said, no. So it was a great atmosphere. We sat about 25 rows up behind the U of A bench. Of course, we had some San Diego State fans in front of us and a few seats down, but it was like 90% U of A fans. U of A got, we'll get into the game a little bit more, but I'll just say that U of A got off to a really slow start offensively, but just the turning point, just as it felt in the arena, and maybe it came across on TV too, was San Diego State's coach getting teed up late in the first half with his team ahead. You're beating the number one team in the country, and you get a technical foul. That got the fans fired up. Then a minute later, Anthony Del Orso hits a three, Arizona's first three of the game to give U of A the lead at halftime. The Bears fan next to me suggested it was actually louder in McHale Center than, or louder in the Suns Arena than it was in McHale, which I did not agree with. It was loud, not quite McHale, and I think partly because it's a larger arena, so it's more difficult to get that decibel level. But it was fun. It was frustrating for the first half. I'd even use the word exasperating for parts of the first half in terms of the offense. But credit to Arizona because even with that, the game was essentially over with about 10 minutes left because U of A finally found its groove offensively. San Diego State couldn't hit anything, and it was fun. It wasn't quite McHale, but it was close, and really enjoyed it. Glad we got tickets.
It was a really good defensive performance in the second half. It was exactly what you'd want to see a team do, make halftime adjustments and roll. And you as somebody now I watched it, but you lived it. You almost forget about what you saw in the first half because the second half was that good.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was an ass
I,
kicking.
I recorded the game and I went back when I went back and watched it. I started with about 2 minutes left in the first half. I skipped the other parts, but the defense helped move U of A up a few spots to number 2 in Ken Palm defense. San Diego State came into the game, and I mentioned this last week when we previewed it. They came in shooting over 40% from three. They made 1 3-pointer in that game, and it was a bank shot early in the game. And then Tobe Awaka was outstanding. You know the saying, pound for pound, he's the best boxer in the world. Inch for inch, Tobe Awaka is the best rebounder in the country.
He is.
He was outstanding. He was an absolute beast. Mo Krivas was great on the boards as well, even though it was a tough game for him because San Diego State did play some very good defense as well. And when Mo Krivas has the ball in his hand for like more than a second, he tends to get a little flustered. So that was a little that was a little tough. And I think we saw that at the end of the game, Awaka was in there instead of Krivas. But San Diego State's game plan was pretty simple. You clog up the lane, you make Arizona win, beat you by shooting threes, which is not really their game. They can shoot threes, but they don't shoot many of them. But it worked for a half, and then Arizona finally knocks them down in the second half. They hit 5 3-pointers in the second half. Tobe Awaka was able to just demoralize San Diego State with some offensive rebounds and some second chance points. But just looking at the conference season as a whole, and I know they have one game left, but what I love the most about this gauntlet they've played in non-conference is that they've faced not only some very good teams, but a wide variety of playing styles. It was like a slow and gritty like UCLA and San Diego State, and then up-tempo like Alabama. And they've adjusted each time, and they found ways to win all of them. Now, this is easily the best defensive team Arizona's had under Tommy Lloyd, and their win over San Diego State, I would say, was their best defensive performance of the season. And then finally, I'll mention Ivan Karchenkov. Our guy Blair Willis noted that Karchenkov has more steals than turnovers this season. After the Bethune game, he has 24 steals now compared to 15 turnovers in 12 games. And he had 2 of Arizona's 5 steals against San Diego State. So defensively, this team is right up there. Tommy Lloyd's best and right up there with the best we've seen at Arizona.
Shane, I've made some bad predictions on this show. We know that. I predicted that Arizona would go 9-4 in the non-conference. They are going to be 13-0 in all likelihood with a win over South Dakota. And just absolutely and utterly stunning. I wouldn't have predicted that with your money going into it. Absolutely an incredible run. Just the polar opposite of where we were a year ago when Arizona was under 500 and I was saying they're going to miss the tournament. Yeah. I'm not making any bold predictions. We'll find out in next week's show, but just yet. But wow, that's certainly impressive. So let's get to Buy or Sell It. It's presented by our friends at Ice Shaker. If you need a late Christmas present or a post-Christmas present, you can get what Shane is drinking out of on the YouTube on YouTube.
YouTube, Spotify, X. We have video all those places.
Oh, thank you. Yes. What is this creation that you're holding?
This is the Legacy series. It's a 40-ouncer with a handle, which I guess is more geared toward women, but I love it. It's a great to drink out of. Keeps your drinks hot, keeps your drinks cold. And if you don't like this, there's a bunch of different options, a lot of which have the U of A logo in it. So go check them out at iceshaker.com. Our buddy Chris Gronkowski founded that company, got a big deal on Shark Tank, and he's taken off, and he and his brother Rob, who's also a former football player of some note. Rob's an investor in the company, and they're doing great. So go check them out.
Buy or sell, Shane. Arizona's defense was the most impressive aspect of Saturday's game in Phoenix.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I don't, I think 24% from the field, they held San Diego State to. And they didn't, some of their shot selection wasn't great either, but I think Arizona had a lot to do with that. I think they were getting a bit frustrated. Tommy Lloyd mentioned after the game that they're playing with a different brand of ball. I think a Spalding versus some, I guess it took both teams a little bit getting used to. I don't know why that happens because it's an NBA court. I don't know. But yeah, it was a bit of an ugly slugfest early, and it was for most of the game too. But San Diego State just challenged Arizona to come inside, and eventually they got through. But San Diego State never adjusted to Arizona's size, and it reminded me of what Auburn's coach said about how they have basketball players built like football players out there, and just the physicality that they bring, the Tobe Awaka and Koa Pete bring in particular, it's next level, and it's got guys like that play in the NBA for a reason, not for a lot of the flashy statistical stuff sometimes, but because they're great on defense. So, best defensive performance of the season, and I think kind of like the football team, that they tend to get better defensively as the game goes on.
Stunning stats in this game. San Diego State ended up 15 of 57 shooting, which is 26%.
26.
Arizona wasn't amazing at 38%, but how about the difference in rebounding? Arizona 52, San Diego State 28. Arizona doubled them in offensive rebounds, 20 to 10, and 32 defensive rebounds to 18. Just an absolute ass kicking in the second half, but defensively, I was extremely impressed. And you've talked about it, Shane. This is what you want to see championship teams do, is show up on defense. Now, we saw they can drop 100 against Reggie Theus and Bethune-Cookman on Monday night. Great, wonderful, awesome. But the fact of the matter is, this is what you want to see from the Arizona Wildcats, and they took care of business in their final game before the Christmas break.
Yeah, so someone noted that this game, I think it was on X, it was whoever runs Tommy Lloyd's burner account, just what they call it, noted it was kind of like a 1 versus 9 second round NCAA tournament matchup. It kind of felt that way. Where both teams sort of felt each other out. Maybe we're a little sloppy early, and then the better team pulled away at the end. I think that was a good way to describe it.
Number two, the number one ranked Wildcats basketball team doesn't have a notable weakness. Buy or sell?
I will buy that they don't have a weakness that's not fixable. To me, the biggest concern going forward is foul trouble. In particular, we've seen a lot of games where either Koa Pete or Braden Burries pick up a couple of early fouls. Koa was Arizona's best scorer early in the San Diego State game. He had 6, I think, their first 11 points. Then he picked up a pair of quick fouls, and Arizona struggled to score the rest of the half. Tommy Lloyd decided to bench Koa for the rest of the half, and they scored, I think, 17 points the rest of the half. So not a big deal yet, but we've seen it in a lot of games now. In the NCAA tournament, a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 game against a really good team, a silly foul early in the game could be the difference between finally getting back to the Final Four and coming up short again. Good news is both the guys they mentioned are freshmen. They're coachable. They're still almost 3 months until the tournament, and I think that's but I think that's something that they're going to have to clean up at some point before it costs them a meaningful game.
Fair enough. I'll tell you what, I don't see a weakness. I mean, inconsistency, you could say that about every team. I think this was a team that I was just waiting to have that meltdown, and we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to happen.
It'll happen at some point. Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point, but right now, as it stands in the non-conference season, I haven't found a weakness. This team is very good defensively, very good offensively, consistent, senior leadership, young freshmen, playing above their experience. I wish I could give you something. I'm sorry, I got nothing here. This is something. This is quite I couldn't have expected this. We'll talk more with AJ Bramlett about it later in the show. Transition to football here. So Kenny Dillingham, rumor is that he expressed some interest in the Arizona job in 2021 before the Wildcats hired Jedd Fisch. Buy or sell, Shane, Arizona would have been better off hiring Dillingham in 2021 than the Jedd Fisch-Brent Brennan combination, knowing what you know now in the 5 years since.
Alternate realities are always fun. I enjoy them a lot. It's right. That question's right up there with what if the Confederacy won the Civil War? No.
Yes. Thank you.
Same thing. No. Hard to say specifically because, Dillingham's an ASU alum, and if that job had come along, would he have spurned
Right.
U of A for ASU?
Yeah.
That would have
Yeah.
been the ultimate embarrassment right there. So it's really tough to say. I think he would have done well at Arizona, but I also think, and fans are not going to like this, but I've said a lot of things they don't like, so why stop now? I think the ASU job is probably a bit more attractive anyway. I think at least it should be. It should be based on the history and the location of the program. So I guess the question, I think he would do well wherever he went. The question is, I think the question you're really asking is, would Kenny Dillingham still be at Arizona if he was hired in 2021? Without the strong ties to the university that he has, like he has at ASU and with family there, the answer is probably not, and he probably would have left somewhere else. But you know what? I'm considering where Arizona's at now. I wouldn't have it any other way, really. I wouldn't trade it. I know last year was awful, but 2 seasons where you have 10 wins and a chance for a second 10-win season, even 9 wins, even if they don't win the bowl game, is remarkable. They have a guy now in Brent Brennan who is more likely to stay, who doesn't have quite the ties that Dillingham has to ASU, but he does have those ties, and he is the kind of guy like Dillingham where even if a more attractive offer came around, he may be more inclined to stick around than most coaches, provided that Arizona could come close in terms of a contract situation.
Shane, I'm going to sell this one. If Arizona were to win the game next Friday, that's a 10-win season for the second time in 3 years.
No.
You can't tell me that any coach in America realistically would have gotten Arizona to two 10-win seasons in the last 5 years. Just can't.
Two different coaches did it.
Right, and two different coaches did. And I know that they didn't win a Big 12 and didn't get to college football playoff like ASU did great. But for where this program was, having not made a bowl game and after Rich Rod and in the 5 years since then or 4 years since then, the Kevin Sumlin era was a disaster. If you had told me that Arizona would have made two bowl games in that time and had a chance to win 10 games in both of them and finished inside the top 20 in both, assuming that the Wildcats can win their finale, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So this is a sell for me.
Yeah, and just along those lines, I think, like I said, I think Brent Brennan is Arizona's best chance for sustained success. Not 9 or 10 wins every year, most likely, but a situation where under Dick Tomey, where a 500 record, which means in this day and age a bowl game, is the minimum expectation every year. 6 wins is the minimum, and I think Arizona can get there. I think certainly going into the next year, I think that's a reasonable expectation. And as long as Brent Brennan's there and is able to make some good coaching decisions and has the financial flexibility to do that, because of course coaches, assistants, coordinators are going to come and go, I'm confident Arizona will not necessarily be a conference title contender every year, but a team that we can look forward to participating in the bowl game each year.
I would certainly hope so. And finally, Shane, so Trust and Will, who sponsors the Holiday Bowl, it's an estate planning company, and they are doing an on-field promotion where you can try to throw a football and hit a casket. And if you make the shot, you'll win $1,000. I was going to enter your name, but I'm not one who likes to do that. I certainly don't want to do it. Do you think you could hit the casket? There's no real specifics as to how far
yeah, I looked. I didn't see that until you sent it to me, so I don't really know. And I did sign up for it because what the heck? My question is, if I get picked, am I gonna know beforehand so I can actually practice and because I'm an old man, and if I try to throw any ball, a baseball, football, whatever, as hard as I can, my elbow is going to hurt. And so I need to know how is it going to be like the Dr. Pepper challenge where you just have to kind of push the football?
No, you're going to have to throw.
You're going to have to throw it a ways. So am I going to have a chance to practice that is my question. But I signed up for it because why not? I'm not above public humiliation, and and the chance that I hit it, it's $1,000. I'll pay for our trip to the Holiday Bowl in Legoland.
I'm going with if I had 5 warm-up throws beforehand and it was under 20 yards, I think I could do it.
Think so?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I used to be able to throw a football well, but it's been a few years. But if you just told me to do it loosely, it would be rough. you need to get a little warm up. So hopefully
Yeah.
they let these people, whoever that is, do that. Shane, do we have any standouts? I know the women's basketball team lost a heartbreaker in their Big 12 opener. You got anything standout
Yeah.
wise for us this week?
Well, that was impressive enough. By the way, did you put the women's basketball teams over under at before the season started?
9.5.
No, you put it at 8.5.
Oh, I did. Damn.
You did. How many wins do they have?
8.
9.
Oh, okay. Well, I was wrong.
So there you go.
Another
But
bad pick.
it was. I mean, Utah's not a great team, but the fact that they were, it was a close game against a conference opponent is a good sign. Now they haven't played a road game yet, and that's coming. But I think they're off. All things considered, they're off to a decent start. And then I want to mention my favorite current Arizona Wildcat, Dalton Johnson, who was invited to the East-West Shrine Bowl, very well deserved. And then shout out to T-Mac, who is I think he's right now the favorite for
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year, and is on his way to a 1,000-yard season. Our buddy Anthony Gimino noted he could become the first Arizona wide receiver since Vance Johnson to have a 1,000-yard season, which sounds crazy, but I guess that's accurate. So, but yeah, happy for T-Mac and the Carolina Panthers. No team is more up and down than they are, but he's been a big reason for their success and the reason why they're probably going to win the NFC South.
Need a last minute, I don't know, holiday gift of some kind? Head out to Harrah's Auction Casino. Get your loved one or family member or friend a gift card, a gift certificate, a free stay out there. It's a great place out there in Maricopa, and it is your key to nationwide fun. Unlock perks at more than 50 destinations from coast to coast at your local home for Caesars Rewards. Free dining in Atlantic City, Vegas, or New Orleans. Yes. Free slot play in Maricopa. Absolutely. Free hotel stays from coast to coast. Oh yeah, get rewarded for all the ways you can play at the official sponsor of play, Harrah's Auction Casino. Caesars Rewards is the nation's #1 players card, and Harrah's Auction is the only local casino that has it. Coming up next, we have a pair of guests. AJ Bramlett, Billy Embody, here on Wildcat Country.
All right, Wildcat fans, let's talk about crushing your workouts with the Ice Shaker 40-ounce Legend Series shaker bottle. It's made from kitchen-grade stainless steel, leak-proof, tough as nails, built-in straw, soft touch handle, and yeah, it keeps your drinks cold for a long time. I got mine in both Wildcat Red and Blue. Be sure to get yours at iceshaker.com.
Shane, I was saying before this interview off the air, Arizona's #1 in college basketball, and that's a feeling to a lot of fans that is familiar from decades ago, maybe a decade ago, maybe 2 decades. Then we got a guy who's actually played on not only a #1 team, but the only Arizona team that has won a national championship. It is the great AJ Bramlett joining us for the first time in probably 2 years here on Wildcat Country. AJ, welcome back. Glad to have you on. Just your thoughts on what you're seeing from this undefeated 12-0 Arizona basketball team.
First of all, it's great to be back, guys. Appreciate you having me on. I love these guys, man. I mean, they have everything that they need. This by far, I think, is the toughest team, top to bottom, that Arizona's had, in a long time, maybe ever. And I mean, not in the recent history. We've had a lot of teams, but I mean, from top to bottom, these guys, they defend, they rebound. The rebounding, I think, is the #1 thing that I love. Obviously, that's near and dear to my heart, but that's something that can carry them a long, long way this year. Obviously, their defense and rebounding. And if we shoot it good, I mean, then that's great. But just like you guys saw the other night, we can get through those struggles, too, on the offensive end because of defensive rebounding.
Yeah, AJ, I was at the San Diego State game in Phoenix, and it was, I mean, from an offensive standpoint, it was pretty exasperating for 20 and 22 minutes there. But the defense was outstanding from beginning to end. How encouraging is it for you that this team, they haven't just beaten a lot of good teams, they've beaten a lot of good teams who have very contrasting styles, like UCLA, San Diego State on the one end, and teams that like to run and gun like Alabama on the other. What does it say about this team that are able to win so many different ways?
I mean, this team's, built for the tournament, right? I mean, because you're going to match up against teams that play totally different styles. In years past, I think we've struggled, with certain styles and failed to, not done a good job of matching up against certain teams. But they've showed it this year. I mean, throughout, the victories against all these top ranked teams, I mean, just like you said, I mean, we can play fast or we can play slow. We can run half court offense or we can get up and down the court, and that comes from controlling the backboards. I mean, on both sides of the court, and so they're just a fun team to watch. Obviously, Tommy's done a hell of a job with the culture and the guys that he recruits and how they fit together. And it's been I texted him today. It's Tommy's birthday today. I shot him a text. Just said that, from an alumni standpoint, it's just been, really fun to start off this season to see how these guys are playing. And, hopefully they'll continue to ride. The Big 12 is going to be a beast, but hey, I mean, we're made for it.
There's a side question. Does Tommy respond to you? Does he get back to you?
Yeah, Tommy's my guy, man. Yeah. Tommy's a great guy. I mean, I was out there twice. I came out for the Coach Olson Fantasy Camp in August, and then my son and I came out for the Red Blue a couple times already. So trying to make us back as many times as I can. He always treats all of us alumni great, man.
That's fantastic to hear. You mentioned rebounding. Tobe Awaka was outstanding against San Diego State. I think my nephew Zach, who went to the game with me, mentioned that there's a stat that showed that. Long story short, Tobe Awaka, in terms of his relative to how tall he is to his height, is the best rebounder in college basketball.
Yeah.
Does he remind you of anyone that you played with or anyone else at Arizona?
I mean, he's a monster, man. I mean, physically, I don't think I played with anybody that physically dominant. Michael Wright was similar, but Michael Wright was a lot smaller than Tobe. So, he was a monster on the glass on both sides. But Tobe is something else, man. I think, I saw a stat that he's playing, 19, 20 minutes a game and averaging 10.6 rebounds or whatever it is. I mean, that's an insane, ratio to playing time. And so if you're bringing a guy like that off the bench, I mean, we're in pretty good shape. And, shout out to Bo Krivas too. Like, I think he doesn't get a lot of credit. And, I think the UConn game, he had a great game, but the stuff that he's doing on the defensive end and really anchoring them and changing shots and stuff that doesn't show up always on the stats, but he's doing. So he's having a hell of a season as well.
All right, now we gotta kind of. I have to divert this for a second. Your son Drew is a 2027 point guard prospect. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And he's obviously highly rated in the state of New Mexico. So are we gonna talk Arizona here? Like, can we have a conversation?
Of course, man. That's his number one school. I mean, if he could go anywhere, that's where he would go. So, he's got a couple years left and still got to develop and keep working and do what he needs to do, on and off the court, which he will do. But I mean, that would be a dream. And he works every day towards a goal like that. So we'll stay in the gym and see what happens. But
I've seen the clips you posted on your X account, and he's a baller. And, he keeps developing. Arizona's going to need a new point. Jaden Bradley's out this year. You get a rental. Just saying, throwing that out there.
Hey, man, I like throwing it out there for sure. We'll keep working.
What do you think of the growth? I know you're a big man, obviously, but you look at a guy like Anthony Del Orso, and that's a guy who's really impressed me. He put on some weight, and he's become a reliable outside shooter coming off the bench. Just talk about the mindset that it takes for him and Awaka to go from starters last year to a bench player and now bringing that high impact off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, ADOs have been incredible this year. And, last year, it was rough on him, right? I mean, people, I think, were on him, most of the year. He had some good games, but he had some, bad ones. And, he physically wasn't ready for it, I believe. I mean? And this year, over the summer and over, the past time since the season ended, he's been a totally different player. I mean, he's, like you said, he's much stronger. And with that strength comes confidence. And, he's made some huge shots for us this year when needed. And, I really love him. Like, he's a smart player. He's a really good defender now, with that additional strength. And when we need a big basket from three, I mean, he's the one. He's come through every single time this season, and that's what you're supposed to do in his position. When you're an older veteran at Arizona, and he's definitely handling that really, really well this year, and continue to look for more from him as the season develops. But he's doing a hell of a job.
AJ, I think a lot of Arizona fans have a little bit of PTSD because they haven't made a Final Four since 2001. So we're enjoying this, but we're like, can we bottle this up somehow until March? Yeah. I'm optimistic. I'm usually the most cynical of the group here, but I'm optimistic because there's so many young guys on this team. who I think are only going to get better, like Koa Pete and Braden Burries, Ivan Karchenkov, and I think Dwayne Aristote as well is going to make a bigger impact. Do you think that's a fair assessment? Do you think it's fair to expect this team to be even better at the end of the season because they have so many young guys?
I think so. I mean, you're already seeing it. Like we played the toughest schedule in the country. Like we haven't ducked anybody,
Yep.
and we beat everybody that we've come up against so far. And Karchinkov, you got to. I mean, he's impressive, man. To come in and do what he's doing as well. That's a great find for Tommy.
Yeah.
And I really like him as a player. I think Aristote is the wild card. I mean, this kid has so much talent, and we're barely scratching the surface with him. Right now he's one of the best shooters on the team, and it's starting to come out now. He's getting more comfortable, but even off the bounce and off the dribble, and him making plays, last game, getting into the lane and kicking it to Del Orso for a couple threes, and he's starting to make better reads. And defensively, he's a monster. He can be a monster too. So they're going to continue to do well. Koa's going to be Koa the whole season, and once the Big 12, we get through the Big 12. I mean, we're battle tested already, but that Big 12 is going to be a grind, and there's no reason why once we get to Selection Sunday that we're going to have a shot to take it this year, at least to get to Final Four. We should. We have everything we need, and a lot of some of it's luck, you know what I mean, obviously, and health and things like that. But they have everything that they need this year to make a good run.
And that leads me to my next question, because I love the fact that Arizona's in a very tough conference now, maybe the toughest conference in college basketball, because back when you were playing, the Pac-10 was a gauntlet. I mean, like, you guys finished tied for 4th in the Pac-10 that year, and they were still a 4 seed and won it all. I think that maybe is something that's held Arizona back a little bit when they were in the Pac-12 toward the end of the Pac-12 run, because you go a couple months without playing a lot of tough teams. Maybe you get a little complacent and a little weak. I feel like 2 years ago when they played Clemson in the Sweet 16, that was probably the best team they played in 2 or 3 months, even though Clemson was only a 6 seed. Now you have no chance to rest. You have to be at your best. It kind of the iron sharpens iron thing. Do you think that's going to help Arizona going forward, going into March?
100%. I mean, that's the best thing that could happen to Arizona basketball is going to the Big 12, because you're right. Like, the Pac-12 was great, and the history and everything, but there was some games where they didn't have to bring their A game every time, and the physicality is totally different in the Big 12, and that's where we've gotten hurt. The past few years, is you're right, against Clemson. I mean, the physicality hurt us, and against TCU that year, the physicality hurt us. But those things aren't happening anymore, and so we've proved it, through the beginning of the season, and the Big 12 is just going to be more of that. I mean, there's no nights off at all in the Big 12, which is great for Arizona basketball fans to watch. And as an alumni, I love it because there's big games, pretty much every game, and it's just going to prepare us more for the tournament. That's what it's all about, is taking the next step and trying to get to the 4.
So one thing that I think is interesting for me is when you guys won the title in '97, you really didn't have a ton of expectations at that point. You were a 4 seed. Kansas was this unbeatable team. But the next year you start number 1. You lose to the number 2 and number 3 teams in the country in your non-conference, and you roll through the Pac-10 season. What is it? Just kind of explain the difference between having a target on your back with that number 1 ranking and not.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder, right? I mean, we're Arizona, so we're going to get everyone's best shot anyway, but that number 1 just comes with added, pressure. And, it's just something that, I think Tommy's done a really good job, like, handling with the team, and how he talks about it and the way that they kind of look at it. Like, we feel that's where we're supposed to be, but you got to do those little things every single day to keep you there, stay grounded. And I actually think that, kind of stuff with Michigan and people putting them number 1 is good for us too. Just to keep that edge going, and something to prove, every single night out. I think that's good for us. So it's hard, but it's where you want to be, man. I mean, we're Arizona. We're okay at number 1. It's a tough place to be, but I like that we're there.
When it comes to kind of a philosophy between the way Coach O handled things and Tommy Lloyd, just went from you talking to him, what are some similarities you see between those two, just as far as the way they handle themselves, not only on the court, but off the court?
Yeah, I think that the attention to detail is the thing that, jumps out most. That was Coach O. Like, he didn't let anything go. It didn't matter if it was a shoot around or, just a regular practice or whatever. if there was something that needed to be fixed and done the right way, we were going to do it until we got that right, and to his standard. And I think that's Tommy too, right? And he's a stickler for the details and execution. And I've watched a lot of their practices, and there's a lot of similarities there. I like the positivity that he has with the players. He's hard on them and holds them accountable, but he also instills a lot of confidence in the guys, which I love. And so they're different in some ways. Coach O was a little bit more stern. I think Tommy is just overall, but they both hold Arizona basketball to the highest standard. And Tommy's done a great job, man, incredible job so far. So, I mean, it's building every year, and he keeps on doing it. So we're happy to have him.
I'm guessing Luke wasn't quite as big a Beastie Boys fan as Tommy was, but
if he was, he didn't tell us. You never know what happened behind the scenes.
I love the idea of Luke listening to No Sleep Till Brooklyn, but I'm guessing that didn't happen. All right, I got two more for you, AJ.
No
we haven't talked about Jaden Bradley yet, who I was at the Suns arena. I've been a lifelong Suns fan. I can't help but think a little bit of Kevin Johnson, some of the shades of KJ a little bit. Watching him at the Suns. In the Suns arena, just how aggressive he is. What do your thoughts on his maturation, and does he remind you of anyone in an Arizona uniform?
I mean, I've loved JB since he got here, and the thing about him that I love the most is just supreme confidence. Right, that's what you want from your point guard. That's what you want from the leader of your team. A guy that you can trust in any situation to make a play, whether that's scoring a bucket, making an assist, locking somebody up, getting a steal. He's just a winning player. And so, he's similar the year that he's having, not so much from an offensive standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. I would say JT, he's similar with speed and quickness and defense and toughness and all of that. I mean, from the offensive standpoint, obviously JT was averaging like 29 a game or whatever hell he averaged that year, our senior year. But similar like traits, you know what I mean? And I just love Jaden. Like, he's a leader. He's what you have to make a deep run in the tournament. And, he's proven himself year over year. And now it's good to see him finally getting, kind of an opportunity for it to be his team and lead these guys. And you wouldn't want anybody else.
Good of Caleb to pass along that clutch gene on his way out.
Absolutely.
Because Jaden definitely has it.
Good for Caleb, too.
Yeah. Last question for you, AJ. Really appreciate your time. Eric and I have talked about this, and I talked about it with the guys I went to the game with the other day. About how sometimes the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament can be sort of a disadvantage to a top seed because the women on the women's side that if you're a top 4 seed, you get the first 2 games at home. On the men's side, you don't. You may play close to home, but I think a lot of times what happens is the other fans in the arena will get behind the underdog if it's a close game late. Did you experience anything like that? And do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, the first 2 rounds were the hardest. I mean, obviously, the year that we won the championship, we were down 10 to South Alabama and down 10 to College of Charleston, in both of those games, and had to come back and make comebacks to win those games. And the first game is tough. And it doesn't matter who you are. Usually, if you're a freshman and you've never played in a tournament, it's just different. And so it takes a little bit of adjustment, to get through that. And you're right about the crowd, but it's just a little bit of uneasiness and nervousness that first game. And if you can get through that, then usually, you loosen up a little bit the second game. But it's definitely, especially when you're a high seed and you have all the expectations on you, sometimes it's hard to get out, you get off to a little slow start. But, these guys have everything that they need to, like we said, things that translate are defense and rebounding. And you can do that no matter what and how you're feeling. So if they keep doing that, they're going to be in a good spot.
All right, AJ, I'm putting you on the spot. Last one here. Let you call your shot. You think this Arizona team is national championship good? So last year on the show, at the end of the year, I said to Shane, Arizona stunk in the non-conference. They're going to miss the tournament. And obviously, that was a very, very bad prediction on my part. This year, you talk about a total 180. We're all dreaming big. How big are you dreaming, and how far realistically do you think Arizona can go this season?
And to be honest, this is the closest, shot I think they have to taking it all the way. I mean, it's hard to do, right? It's hard to do no matter what. Like, our 98 team was way better than our 97 team. Like, we were a machine and run into one bad game and we were out, right? But they have all the tools that they need to make a run at it, right? From the toughness to, like we talked about, the personnel, the personalities, the coaching. They have everything that they need to do to make it. So, I mean, a Final Four run, is definitely in the sights. And then matchups and everything. I don't think there's a team in the country that we can't beat or match up well with. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I think we definitely have a shot to go really, really far this year.
I think we need to send AJ the bottle of champagne if and when Arizona wins it all. Hopefully, we'll see you at the Final Four. Knock on wood. It's been a long time. AJ, thanks so much for catching up with Shane and me. Happy holidays, and hopefully we'll talk to you again during the season.
Appreciate you guys. Anytime, man.
Discover more Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino.
Hi, folks. Here are your drinks.
Where having fun means racking up reward credits with the Caesars Rewards loyalty program that can be redeemed for food, free play, hotel stays, and more. Not only here in the city of Maricopa, but also at more than 50 Caesars properties coast to coast. From Harrah's Las Vegas to Caesars Palace in Atlantic City. What are you waiting for? Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino, the official sponsor of Play.
Shane, apparently there's a big football game on January 2nd in San Diego. Some of you might have heard of it. It's called the Holiday Bowl. Yes, you're probably as surprised as we are that Arizona's in the game, but I'm not sure this guy is surprised or not surprised that SMU is in the game. Billy Embody from On the Pony Express joins us here on Wildcat Country. All right, Billy, you guys, now listen, you guys have a great football tradition, minus a couple of years when things went down. Like, people don't understand how good SMU football was in the early 80s. And how do I know this? That I worked with a guy who was an SMU offensive lineman who went to play in the NFL, and Dale Hellestray. I worked with him several times here in Arizona. Great guy. So I've heard all about SMU. Can you tell our audience, what is SMU football and why have you guys been so good in recent years?
It's been crazy. The way SMU has gotten back to being a team that can even be talked about in college football circles as a threat, as a bowl team, as a college football playoff team. They did it really with some of the things that built that Pony Express group that did end up getting in trouble a little bit too much. I think people would agree now. But NIL, of course, has played a big role for SMU. But they've also been on a tear of hiring good people, making the right evaluations, and piecing together a roster each and every year that can be competitive. And, somebody that has watched June Jones get back to a bowl game, and then Chad Morris took the reins for a bit and kind of kept the program going in the right direction. And then Sonny Dykes comes in and continues to build on what the prior coaches have done. And then Rhett Lashley gets there, and he's the beneficiary of it all, where the boosters are ticked that Sonny Dykes left for TCU and said, we're going to ante up here. We're going to invest. We're going to show him that, truthfully, SMU was going places with or without Sonny Dykes. And ever since that moment when Sonny left, SMU's staff, their boosters, their administration, their players have just kept the ball rolling. And it is quite incredible to watch the way they've put it all together through these years of being not only legitimate, but becoming a college football playoff team and a championship winning team. So it's been quite the journey, but SMU football right now is just a lot of excitement. And despite having 4 losses on this season, 3 of them coming by a total of 7 points, there's still a lot to like about the direction of this program.
Yeah, Billy, I'm curious. And first of all, thanks so much for joining us. I'm curious about the mood of the SMU program and the fans going into this game. They're coming off, like I said, a college football playoff appearance last year, very close to playing for an ACC championship again this year. I tend to think, not just because I'm not saying this because you're here. I think they probably would have beaten Virginia had they gotten in there. We saw what Duke did. So in that sense, does the Holiday Bowl, to the players and fans, do you sense that it feels like a bit of a letdown, or do you think they're still excited for this game?
A lot of my message board has been a lot of, oh, well, what if we could have just got off the bus in time to be respectable in the first half against Cal, if we could have done this, if we could have done that, if we would have been able to put away a Wake Forest team that was a impressive team by the end of the year, but still Wake Forest, was a beneficiary of a good schedule for them as well. That kind of, bolstered their chances to be where they were. But SMU just let so many opportunities slip through their hands this year. And so there's a little bit of that, well, what if? Yeah. But also there is a lot of excitement around playing a top 25 team in Arizona and being in a nice weather bowl game against a team with, a lot of momentum, 5 straight wins to close out the regular season, a really talented quarterback, and two coaches that are very likable, and just a bowl too for SMU fans that, they have a little history with too. So it is a win-win for SMU to be in this bowl. From what I had kind of understood watching this bowl process play out, obviously everybody was hoping on SMU side that they'd be in Charlotte and then maybe playing in a quote unquote bigger bowl or going to the college football playoff even, but that didn't happen. And it's unfortunate for SMU, but SMU hasn't won a bowl game since 2012. It's a lot of motivation for this SMU team to get over that hump. Now there's been a bunch of coaches, there's been COVID, there's been this, there's been that has kind of derailed some opportunities to get that done. But this is an opponent that they should get off the bus for right away. It's funny. SMU beat Miami, so let's not forget that piece of the puzzle here. So they can certainly play up to a really good opponent and have done that this year. And that's kind of the goal for SMU to do that against Arizona. And so for that reason, there is a lot of excitement around the fan base about this matchup because they feel like it's a good matchup overall. It's something that you should enjoy watching as you get kind of still maybe shaking off the cobwebs from the New Year's.
Yeah, for sure. And I like the time slot. And, I think the fact that Gus Johnson is calling it suggests that's probably going to be a very close nail biting game because it almost always is when he's on the call. One of the things we do this time of year, Billy, along with, get excited for the bowl game is just cross our fingers that our coaching staff remains intact. I know SMU had its offensive coordinator, Casey Woods, poached by Missouri State for their head coaching job. How might his departure, if at all, impact SMU's offense going into this game?
So Rhett Lashley does call the plays, and Casey Woods is one of his closest confidants, on staff, and certainly a role in coordinating the offense and getting things ready from a game prep. So internally, I'm not sure how much that will completely throw everything awry, just because at the end of the day, it's Rhett calling plays, and Kevin Jennings is very comfortable, and this is a staff that has been together for a while now. Rob Likens, the wide receiver coach, Karen Justice, the offensive line coach, Kyle Cooper, the running backs coach, and De'Aaron King, the quarterbacks coach. They've all been on the staff together since the start when Rhett got the head coaching job, outside of De'Aaron kind of coming in as an analyst and then being promoted to quarterbacks coach. So there's a lot of continuity as a whole. I don't think it's going to impact things too much. I'm not even sure yet if he's going to be with the team with the bowl game. He kind of didn't have that answer just yet when he got introduced as the Missouri State head coach, but there's still a team that has 3 veteran tight ends in that room that at this point kind of coach themselves, I'd imagine. So I don't think it'll have too much of an impact on them as a whole.
Easy for me to take myself off mute. One guy I want to talk about, Kevin Jennings. So Jennings kind of came out of nowhere. He and Preston Stone were your guys. Stone was the guy last year. Then Jennings takes over. So Jennings, back-to-back seasons, 25 plus touchdown passes, 10 plus interceptions. So he might be a little turnover happy. And this is an Arizona defense that just had 5 turnovers in their season finale against Arizona State. Are you concerned about Jennings' decision-making in terms of, playing a secondary that's as aggressive as Arizona's?
I would have been probably after the first 4 weeks of the season. He continued to have interceptions and turnovers and things like that during the course of that early season. East Texas A&M, then Baylor, then Missouri State, then 2 against TCU. And a couple of those were garbage time and things like that, and you're trying to make plays down big. But, Kevin just was able to settle in and find himself in conference play at such a high level. And over the course of the rest of the year, he never let one interception snowball like everybody talks about the Penn State game last year or the Duke game. He was in control at a really high level, in particular in conference play, and even just from a production standpoint in non-conference too. So this is a very different Kevin Jennings than maybe the stats or the last 2 years of body of work might as a whole suggest. That said, Arizona is very good at taking the ball away, similar to Cal in the standpoint of they've got a really good pass defense, a really good secondary, all of those things. That did manage to get an interception off Kevin Jennings on a tip ball, but I think Kevin, for the most part, has settled in well. I could see him throwing an interception just because I think Arizona's defense is that good. The question is, when does it happen, and how much does it impact the game as a whole? Because Kevin Jennings has been able to find ways to be aggressive and in wins, be aggressive and make plays and do all of those things. So much so that when he has had mistakes, those things have not impacted maybe the overall trajectory of the game, at least in the back half of the year. It's been a situation where they've just been able to avoid some of the back-breaking things that have happened maybe earlier in his career. So there's a lot of respect for that Arizona defense, but at the same time, Kevin has just grown so much over the course of this year. I'm not as concerned as I would have been probably back in the first week of October.
Fair enough. Okay, that makes sense. Give us a couple players on defense that we need to watch out for when Arizona has the ball.
Isaiah Wacobia and Ahmad Moses are two really stellar safeties that SMU has. And look, the pass defense for SMU has been strange. There's been busted coverages. There's been even kind of grenade balls that have somehow gotten completed for 30 yards. They've given up third and 30s and fourth and 24s and kind of all of these weird scenarios at times over the course of the season. But they do have these two veteran safeties back there that are trying, if they do have Isaiah Wacobia, to finish out their season and their careers at SMU the right way. They have Isaiah, who got injured in the Cal game. If they have him, great. He's a difference maker. But if not, Tyron Polley is the young true freshman that is going to step into his spot. And he had 2 interceptions in conference play as well once he got back from injury. His first 2 games, he had back-to-back interceptions. So really impressive young player that would be playing alongside the veteran Ahmad Moses. And then Isaiah Smith, the defensive end pass rusher, opposite of Cam Robertson, who's another really good player for SMU at defensive end. Isaiah Smith is a sack away from breaking the all-time SMU sack record. So pretty good group of players there for the most part.
Yeah, there's some interesting parallels between Arizona and TCU. I mean, SMU's got a better pass rush. They recorded 34 sacks this season so far, second most in the ACC behind Miami. They average 2.2 takeaways per game, which is 4th best in the country. Arizona has 2.4. Both quarterbacks have thrown 26 touchdown passes. My favorite stat is Arizona's best receiver's last name is Hudson with a T, and SMU's best is Hudson with a D. I know it's kind of dumb, but I like that stuff. Just on offense, you alluded to SMU's tight ends. Is there anyone else, like if you're an Arizona fan going to that game and you think, okay, at the end of the game, say SMU wins, and we're thinking, boy, that guy really he just killed us. Who's most likely to be that guy for SMU?
Well, if you're preparing for this game and you're an Arizona fan in particular, Jordan Hudson is on SMU's team. So if you're doing some research, just keep that in mind.
Hudson versus Hudson. Yes.
Yeah. And also there's another Jordan Hudson on the East Coast that's pretty interesting this college football season as well. But Jordan Hudson is probably my pick for that. Just the way he's played in conference play since being healthy. He is a former 5-star who at times has just not lived up to those expectations because SMU has spread the ball around a bunch. And last year he was playing with 4 different outside receivers that they rotated. And the opening game, on the opening reception, on the opening drive, he gets hurt. And it kind of derailed his season a little bit in that chemistry that he's had with Kevin. But he's been on a tear as far as making big-time plays for this SMU offense. Cal was able to kind of keep him in check just a little bit, but he still was able to grab a touchdown in that game. So he's a really, really incredible playmaker when he's on. And if Cal lets him get going, look out, because him and Kevin Jennings do have quite the rapport out there at the quarterback wide receiver duo that they are.
What are your thoughts on SMU going to the ACC? Because I feel like, the conference realignment, I mean, they make more sense than Cal and Stanford. But how do the fans feel about SMU being in the ACC?
SMU fans love it. And a couple reasons. One, SMU, back when Larry Brown was around the hilltop, showed that little bit of a flash where SMU could be a basketball power. And so aligning with a basketball conference like the ACC and the history with, North Carolina opens ACC play against SMU at home, or I should say SMU opens ACC play against North Carolina at home. UNC, I think, opens with Florida State. But they do have all of that on the table, as far as basketball. But in the football side of things, you get to play on the East Coast. You get to play in a little bit more of and I don't want to, I'm not taking a shot at the Big 12 here, but I do think, playing in the Eastern time zone definitely helps as far as people keeping up with, where you're going as a program and things like that. And, playing against a Clemson, a Florida State, a Miami, those brand names. And SMU hasn't even played a North Carolina or Virginia Tech yet in their time as an ACC, program. And all of those things have helped sell out Ford Stadium. Top 25 recruiting class for SMU. We know it's well documented about how good their transfers are. Applications are up 56%. It's just sending the school into a kind of another stratosphere. They grabbed the sitting president at the University of Texas. They grabbed Maryland AD Damon Evans. They've hired Andy Enfield from USC. I mean, they've just done all of these things to invest, and they're not done. I mean, they're going to rip out the law school and probably create new academic buildings in that area and build an entire new campus for it across the highway from SMU. So there's just so much investment going on, and the school's board of trustees realized that investment needed to really be accompanied and complementary to an athletics program that was playing and competing at the highest levels. And so that's what they're committed to doing. And the ACC has really allowed, I think, SMU to, continue to push its brand back to national recognition. And truthfully, it kind of helps that SMU's right in the middle between Cal and Stanford too. So you get a little bit of that strong recruiting base as a school out west that SMU has done for years and years. But now you get to tell kids, hey, we'll be out there every year playing one game against either Cal or Stanford. So your family or friends could come see that too. So it's been everything and more the schools wanted and hoped for.
All right, two more for you. First of all, a pick on the game. Shane and I will give our picks later in the show. We don't want to ruin them here. You could probably imagine where I'm going to go. I have no idea what Shane's going to pick.
I don't know.
I have an idea of who you're going to pick. Who you got and what and why?
I've gone back and forth on this because, one, like I said earlier, SMU hasn't won a bowl game since 2012. And at the same time, I always consider teams to be at their best when picking a game. I don't say too often like, oh, I think Arizona's quarterback is going to throw 3 picks because SMU could take away the football. Well, Arizona could do that too to SMU. So at the same time, I think SMU has played up to its opponents as far as the highly recognized ones and the ones that aren't necessarily ones to get caught asleep against. I think this is a huge matchup for SMU to make sure that they are able to get one win against the Big 12 this year. And I really like where Kevin Jennings is at. And I think the leadership on this team brings SMU together and is able to kind of knock all of the maybe rust from the layoff off and is able to go out there and get a win. I think it's going to be close, and that sounds like putting it into a pick'em situation, but I'll take SMU 31, Arizona 27.
Okay.
And I'll just say this real quick. So SMU beat Arizona by 22 points in 1938. Arizona returned the favor 47 years later by beating SMU by 22 points in 1985. So we finally have that long-awaited rubber match. And not only is the winning team going to be ahead in the series, but they're going to be ahead in points because we are tied in wins and in points. So
I can't deal with my message board being a 22-point loss. I can tell you that much, guys. I'm just going to sign off, okay?
I will. The prediction I will make now is it will be closer than either of those two games.
Gus Johnson special.
I will say the same, that it will be closer than 22 points. It would be remiss if we asked you, there was an Arizona to SMU connection last offseason in a guest that we've had on this show 5 times over the years, in Adia Barnes, who left Arizona to go to SMU. What has been your dealing with Adia Barnes and thoughts on her and what she's doing with the program?
Well, it is off to an interesting start. There's been ups, there's been downs. For the most part, she is, having to deal with putting together an entirely new roster and still learning the entire landscape around SMU. So this year, I think, has not necessarily been what she's hoped for, just right off the bat. But she's recruiting pretty well from what it seems like, as far as what I've been able to follow so far. But she's been awesome to us and has been an open book and welcoming into the program and always making sure people know that you can come by. We want you to cover the team, and at the same time, she knows that they've got to give us reasons to be there. And not only us, being the media, but fans. So it's still a work in progress. It's very early, but I think, the hire as a whole really kind of energized the women's basketball program. It had kind of fallen on just kind of like an apathy or kind of like just a lull completely. And so this was at least a big time hire. She's obviously coached for a national championship, so she has that pedigree. It's a chance for SMU to really legitimize itself in the ACC on the women's basketball side of things. So the story is certainly still being written, but she's at least pressing all the right buttons here locally as far as recruiting and bringing a lot of energy into a program that had absolutely zero before she got here.
And listen, that's great. Adia was always kind to us.
Yes, she was.
We wish her well. It just, unfortunately things didn't end the best here at Arizona at her alma mater. But listen, she took a team that was nothing and got them to one basket away from winning a national championship. So we wish you guys well.
I think this, it was a situation where it was good to have a fresh start for everyone. I kind of that's where we're at. Real quick follow up, Billy. How well do you expect SMU fans to travel for this Holiday Bowl?
I think they're going to travel pretty well from what, the Alumni Association and what the, ticket sales group has been telling me. And again, SMU's top 3 states, it's Texas, and then it's Florida, and then it's California as far as, where they pull students from. So there's going to be a lot of people back in Southern California, for a break or for New Year's or holidays or whatever. And so the hope is that everybody isn't necessarily at the Rose Bowl the day before and hanging out there, as most people would probably be being from the area, but they're going to make the trip to San Diego. And there's a lot of big events around it planned for SMU fans. So I think they're going to travel pretty well. I don't know if it's going to be a sellout like it sounds like Arizona's side is. I could be wrong, but it sounds like Arizona fans are going to travel too.
Well, my family's going to make a weekend out of it, so if we happen to see some SMU colors at Legoland the day of the game, I'll be sure not to give anyone the stink eye.
It's nice that Wildcat fans are going to make the trip to San Diego because they had a tough time making the trip to Tucson for certain games this year.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
That's a whole nother story. Billy, thank you so much for taking some time. Happy holidays, happy early New Year, and have to say it, bear down.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Pony up.
All right, Shane, we have a 4-pack of games we're going to pick in our final segment here. We'll get to the big ones next week, including the Holiday Bowl. But let's do 4 quick ones here. Big 12 or Tucson related, we'll say. You are up by 10 on the year. I'm probably not going to catch you. We only disagree on 2 of them this week. We both like BYU minus 4.5 in the Pop-Tarts Bowl against Georgia Tech. Best mascot. That's a game I'd love to see Arizona in one year. That's a cool bowl game that should stay around. The Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, we have Fresno State is minus 6 against Miami of Ohio. The Miami of Ohio's had a bunch of opt-outs. They're not bringing a full squad to Tucson. Fresno State mostly intact. I think they're going to roll there. You disagree with that?
And I have a very scientific reason for disagreeing. It's because I took the favorite with the points in every other game. That's the only reason.
You're just trying to.
But I'm giving you a chance. I'm giving you a chance to catch up, Eric. It's the holidays. I'm feeling charitable, and so this is one you should get.
We are both taking Houston minus 3 over LSU. What does LSU have to play for? Houston 6-0 in games that they didn't play at their own stadium.
Right.
And the stadium they're playing in is 20 minutes down the road. And finally, the Alamo Bowl, USC minus 6.5 against TCU. You have USC. I have TCU. I won't bet Lincoln Riley in games that aren't played in his home stadium. So I think USC will win, but it will be within 4 points.
Yeah, that was a tough one, though, because USC is the better team, but I feel like TCU probably cares more about this game than USC does because, not getting to the CFP is a bigger disappointment there. And it's in Texas. It'll have a bit of a home field edge, but USC is the better team. I'm keeping it simple.
We will have a 10-pack of bowl games to pick on next week's show, but first of all, I want to thank our guests, Billy Embody, AJ Bramlett. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all of you, or not, a little early Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you. Shane, anything you want to say to our awesome audience?
Well, and I meant to mention it last week, but to you and to all of our Jewish listeners, a very happy Hanukkah. I know it's come and gone. I neglected to mention it last week, so I want to mention that. Appreciate you guys. We're coming up on our 300th show. It's going to be early next year.
Wow.
So we relaunched this podcast in late 2010. We've had some really good numbers lately.
2020, not 2010, but
2010. Excuse me, 2020. Okay, I'm getting. It's late in the year. As soon as I remember 2025, it's going to be 2026. We started late in 2010, 2020. I'm on a roll right now, and we've done almost 300 of these, and we've had some very good numbers lately in terms of listeners and viewers, and I think a lot of that has to do with all the winning that the teams have done. We appreciate it. If you're new, thanks for checking us out. I hope you stick around. Any suggestions, please let us know. If you've been there from the beginning, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we'll do one more of these in 2025. Nailed it. Got that year right.
Awesome. Well, happy holidays, everyone. For Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening, and as always, bear down.